Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru, India. The session will run over the next 120 minutes, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat section soon. Before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. I would now like to welcome Shivam, our speaker for today's session. Shivam is an author, cloud architect, speaker, and co-founder at TechScalable. He is passionate about technology and works on Azure, GCP, machine learning, and blockchain. He is also a Microsoft certified trainer. But for now, I will hand over to Shivam to begin the session. Over to you, Shivam.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmita. I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay, so just give me one more second. Okay, so hi everyone, how are you? And today we will be talking about the Spring Cloud as such. And hopefully all of you are doing well. You are at home, you are safe. And let me just quickly take you to the agenda of what we are going to cover. And I have mostly recovered from COVID. So this week my voice is doing very well versus the last 2 weeks. And let me just open one notepad and tell you what are we going to do. So we have very interesting things to cover as such. And I'm just going to put some things on the notepad first. Okay, so basically, the primary objective or the primary agenda which we have is to understand what is Azure Spring Cloud and the features which Azure Spring Cloud can provide to various developers as such, or various corporates in terms of functionalities, or how it can provide things which are easy to use or which are more like a plugin as such. So we'll see what is Azure Spring Cloud. Now, Azure Spring Cloud is just a platform as a service. It's a PaaS solution. It and just we will discuss it out, but it is built on top of AKS, so Azure Kubernetes Services as such. So the backend of Azure Spring Cloud is Azure Kubernetes Services, and I'm pretty sure you guys are pretty excited about Kubernetes as such. Now, the main functionality which they provide is the capability of running Spring Cloud as such on the cloud platform. So we will be understanding what is Spring Cloud first. We have to understand what are the various problems which we are facing when we deploy any application in the cloud environment, which is deployed in a distributed manner, and how Spring Cloud can help us in you can say making things as easy as possible, and then how Azure Spring Cloud, which is a platform as a service which is built on top of Kubernetes, is providing more functionalities. Now, whenever we deploy, so we have to learn various concepts over there. So if I just gist down the concepts for you, we have to discuss about, let me just copy paste. We will be discussing about the configuration server as such. We'll see what is a configuration server. What is the meaning of it? How do we configure it? So we will be configuring it as such over there. What is this service discovery? What is the cloud gateway? Why do we need it? What's the point of it? And how do we do it? What is distributed tracing? How do you use the various monitoring solutions which are there in Azure to do your debugging or to do the logging as such in a distributed manner when you're running your solutions on the Spring Cloud in Azure. Now, another very important thing is the Spring Cloud also provides the functionality of having Spring Cloud functions. So now we will like to understand what is the I'll just briefly describe this for you, and then we'll go in depth later on, right? So now so think it through. Let's say if I'll give you one analogy. So imagine that you are running your own business, and most of you might be running your own business as such, and you are developing something for your company, which is you went for the microservice approach and you have one amazing product as such, which is having multiple services running at the back end, and part of the business logic is there deployed in a serverless manner in functions. Now these functions can be on any of the cloud. We may be thinking about Azure functions, which are serverless, or any other cloud as such. All the clouds have serverless functionalities. But the flip side of serverless is that if you deploy something in a serverless mode, you adopt the cloud too much, or you can say the functions are very tightly binded with the cloud. If you write one function and later on you may want to move to another platform, maybe another cloud and so on and so forth, then you're stuck. You basically have to do a lot of activities to be able to migrate from one serverless platform into another. So one thought process over there comes, why don't we just put everything in containers and run it on the serverless platform which are provided by Azure? But then the problem will be that the optimizations which are provided for these serverless solutions will not be provided, or will all the features will not be there when you containerize and you run your functions inside Docker containers and you run it on the serverless platform. So we have more problems now. So this is where Spring Cloud comes into picture. Now Spring Cloud says that, why are you stuck with all of this? We will create functions for you, and these functions will be platform independent. You run it in Azure, you run it in any other cloud. uh, if you have Java developers who already know Spring Boot, then they will get all the functionalities which they are thinking about, and now you're platform independent. So you don't have to worry about, you're not vendor locked in, you're not stuck with one of the vendors as such. So that is where the Spring Cloud function comes into picture, and we can deploy them as such in Azure over Azure Functions. So we'll see what is that and how to do it. Now apart from this, we will also be creating one CI/CD pipeline. I'll see if we can push the entire thing today. So we'll be having one CI/CD pipeline for Azure Spring Cloud, and this CI/CD pipeline will be using GitHub Actions. We'll use the ones which are more popular today, right? GitHub Actions. So how can you deploy? How can you make a CI/CD pipeline to Azure Spring Cloud using GitHub Actions? And whatever we will discuss in the first 45 to let's say 60-70 minutes, we will try to put the same thing in the GitHub Actions, and we will create one workflow over there doing the entire automation as such. So that is also something which we will try to finish as such over here. So I'll get started, and if you have joined me for any of the previous topics or any of the previous sessions, you know that we use a lot of whiteboard, right? So the same thing we'll do over here. We will be understanding all the things in the whiteboard. Once we have understood it, we will also be jumping in and out of demos whenever required. And I have the entire thing deployed with me as well. So we are deploying this microservice. I'll just show it to you, right? So this is the microservice where the front end looks like that. It's a weather. What is the weather today? And the backend of this mic and behind this is basically an API gateway. And behind that, we have multiple microservices over there. I think I have them open to show it to you. City microservice, gateway microservice, simple microservice. This is where I have done the configuration server, the weather microservice, and so on and so forth. So one instances of all of them are running right now. Now, so we will see what is the architecture, why have we done it like that, how is the service discovery going to happen, is it client side, is it server side, and so on and so forth. So this is the microservice, and we'll do it from the scratch. So I'll just close these tabs, and in case required, if we run out of time or something, we will definitely go back to the demo. This is one of the application map which I have created for you in case the data doesn't load in real time. It takes sometimes time for the map to load. So this is where you can see all the microservices are communicating with each other, and they are deployed in Spring Cloud right now on Azure, on top of Kubernetes. So we'll see what is this and how do we do it. And let me just quickly close all these tabs, and we'll start from the scratch itself. Okay, and I have opened few of the pages over here for reference, and we will be using these reference architectures whenever required. Now, if you check this out, this is a reference architecture of Azure Spring Cloud, right? Well, I'll start from the scratch, but this is finally what we'll try to talk about in today's scenario. So we will be doing we will be doing bindings. I'll show you what is binding. What's the meaning of binding? What do you mean by that in Spring Cloud? And the binding which we will be doing will be done to Azure Cosmos DB and MySQL on Azure. It's a PaaS solution. So I have two databases. We'll be creating two databases today, and we will be making sure that our microservices talk to them. Okay, so now a lot of part of this architecture may not be covered today, like the networking and so on and so forth. We'll be focusing on this box over here, more or less over here, where we have the Spring Cloud. I'll explain it more, right? But this is what we are doing, and we'll cover the GitHub Actions. We'll see what other things we can talk about. Now, I would like you to ask your questions whenever you want. Put the questions in the chat window. The screen is open in my secondary screen. The chat is open in my secondary screen. I'll try to answer your questions on the way. Otherwise, we'll take the questions at the end of the session. Right, so let's get started. Right now, the uh, the very first thing, like if I just start from somewhere, the one of the most popular framework in Java is Spring Boot as such, and and if you work with Java, you already most probably you already will be working with it. Right now, let's just open the documentation of let's say Spring, and let's see what is the number of the adoption today as such. So I'll just go to spring dot, oh sorry, I'm not sure. Let me copy one more time. Okay, now check this out. So yeah, I think it's open here. Okay, so check this out. So if I go to spring.io, I want to understand what is the adoption of Spring Boot today. Like, is it something which everyone is using, or what is the how many companies are going for it, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to spring.io, and this is where uh, it's the world's most popular Java framework. I just want to see what's the number as such. If I click on it, and it just redirects me to another page. The data is not really recent, but if I just scroll down and I want to find the adoption of Spring Boot, so I get more excited about the technology, right? So I can see that Spring Boot is one of the most dominating, you can say, framework in the ecosystem of Java itself, which is having a lot of adoption as such. Now, why is it so popular? What is a good thing about it? The one other thing which happens is that you can build anything inside Spring Boot, right? So let me get started. So I'll just say Spring Boot. Now you can literally create anything in Spring Boot. So let's say you did it, right? You created microservices for your company, and right, like this. Let's say you did it. So you have a lot of microservices which are running right now. So these are various instances of the microservices. We can think it through, like what type of microservices this might be, but let's make some boxes right, or circles right now, just to see that we have some microservices which are running. And the monolithic applications are anyways out of the box, out of the, you can say, out of the window. And these are the microservices which you have deployed and which are scaling in and out based on the rules which you have set, based on the real-time traffic which is coming in. Things are working pretty fine for you, but when you start deploying it, you get stuck into more problems. Now, if you have microservices, then you have to be like, how are they communicating with each other? If you, when the load comes, if you create more instances, right? So then how are the IP addresses might be dynamically allocated? So how are the microservices going to find each other? How are they going to talk to each other? That becomes one problem. So the functionalities which the Spring Cloud will help us. So what is Spring Cloud? If I just put it over here, Spring Cloud is the one which is the framework where by which we can provide the coordination between the microservices. It will provide a lot of inbuilt functionality, so we don't have to design them separately, and it will be more like a just go and click and, or just let's say add some annotation here and there, and automatically the discovery is starting, and so on and so forth. So it will provide more functionalities as such. Now, so what Spring Cloud will do over here, this is where the coordination happens. So let's say coordinate between the microservices over there. But how are we going to coordinate? Like, we have these different microservices. This blue microservice, which is having 3 instances right now, it want to find or want to communicate with the yellow one, and the yellow one wants to communicate with the other one, and so on and so forth. They all are talking to each other, right? Now, the if things are getting, like, if you think from the point of view of any orchestration mechanism, or maybe from Kubernetes point of view, right? Think it through. Like a lot of new pods are coming up. Things are scaling out whenever the load comes. More instances, 5 instances, 10, and so on and so forth got created. Now, the first problem which comes is how are they going to find each other? So Spring Cloud, it provides, let me create some space over here. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay. So this is from where we are starting now. Okay. Come on, move. Okay, so the very first thing which the Spring Cloud and equally Azure Spring Cloud will also provide is the discovery server. So this is one of the most common problem which you will face, and the solution is provided for you when you deploy microservices. So what is this discovery server? If I just let me say discovery server, in the bracket I'll say the service registry over there. So this is the service registry, right? So the most logical way in which the microservices can find each other will be that if there is a discovery server or there is a service registry which also is implemented by using some technology. So what they do, these microservices go and they register themselves over there in the discovery server, and this discovery server is having the information about the IP addresses and the ports of the different microservice. And if the blue microservice wants to find the red one, it will go and ask the discovery server where is that, and discovery server will be having information accordingly. Now when you deploy the discovery server, this registry, this service registry concept, there are two type of deployments which can be done. Like there are two type of architectures or design patterns which are there. We call them client side discovery and server side discovery. So client side discovery is what we will be doing in the tutorial, and I will provide you all the links later on. You can also do whatever I'm doing over here as such, right? So we will be doing the client side discovery. We'll see what is the meaning of it, and the other one will be server side discovery. So if I'm pretty sure so most of you must be aware of them, but I'll just quickly summarize it for you anyways. Now, the client side discovery basically means that this is the client over here. The client application is here, and the client needs to find the microservice which is that one. Let's say microservice number one. So the client will go to the discovery server and will get the information from the discovery server. And in the second call, it will be uh, communicating with the uh, microservice over there. So it will be having more than one calls as such, or more than one operation will be there, or more than one step will be there to find the microservice. You have to go and find it from the discovery server, and then you go back and connect to the the service. This mechanism is called as client side discovery, where the entire job of you can say figuring out or making the actions or doing the calls is on the client as such. The jobs are running on the client side itself. Now in the server side discovery, what happens basically, this is the client over here, and this client will be let's say you can say I'll just make a box over here. So the client will be connecting to one server side component over there, and this server side component can be a load balancer like that. And this load balancer will be communicating with the discovery server over here, which is the service registry, and it is having all the information, and it will be further routing the you can say it will route the call to the correct service which is deployed. So this is the M1 service, and there are more services also, M2 and M3 and so on and so forth, like this, right? Like that. So this is the server side discovery, where everything is on the server, executed on the server side. Now they both have their pros and cons. We can further think it through. Now, how do we do that? Let's practically think it through. So whenever you will be doing, so if you create any application with Spring Cloud itself, one of the most common client-side discovery mechanism is called as Eureka. So we will also be using Eureka. So Eureka was created originally by Netflix as such. It is one of the projects which they have contributed on, or they have open sourced as such, Netflix, and they have other ones as well. Now the server side discovery can be done by Nginx is one of the solution by which you can do this, and the clouds also provide native solutions by which you can do server side discovery as such. Right, so there are various mechanisms by which we can do this also. Now, so let's start deploying. Okay, I'll just take a side. I'll just take you on the side once. So we actually went in the the functionalities of the Spring Cloud, we would also like to see what Azure is doing right over there. Now I have to deploy a couple of templates and some of the things. And when we deploy those templates and things, it will take some time. So let's do it right away. So we don't have to waste time later on looking at the template run over there, right? We will just run it right away and we'll come back and we'll think it through right over here. So I'll take you on a side quest. So what is Azure providing? Like, where is Azure over here in this example? So Azure is now, okay, think it through. Like if even if you use Spring Cloud, you have to deploy the cluster somewhere, you have to deploy the services somewhere, you have to have an infrastructure. If you manage it yourself, then that becomes a problem. You have to think about how literally you have to worry about the infrastructure, the scaling, and so on and so forth. So that becomes a plumbing problem. You get stuck with the infrastructure, and you're not able to focus on the application itself. Now, okay, now this is where Azure comes into picture, and Azure has a tie-up with VMware, and they together are providing the fully managed service. So Spring Cloud in Azure, which is fully managed, is called as Azure Spring Cloud. We'll deploy it. It will take around 8 minutes to deploy, 8 to 10 minutes. So I'll run it right away, right? And then I'll come back to this diagram and we'll start taking more concepts. So I don't waste your time. Like, okay, so this is Azure Spring Cloud over here. Spring Cloud like this, and it's a platform as a service solution. It's a fully managed PaaS solution, right? So let me just write it down. Let's say fully managed. Now the backend of Spring Cloud is Azure Kubernetes services. But if you are working with Azure, you know that when we create the Kubernetes cluster in Azure as part of the AKS offering, the machines are created literally are visible in the portal in a managed resource group. You can see the VMs are coming up over there. You cannot do anything over there, but you can still see them. Now here, what they have done, they have provided very you can say uh, focused approach in a sense that the entire backend is Azure Kubernetes services, but you don't have to worry about that. So we will be deploying it first, and things become very smooth. And I will just show you the how to deploy it and how to work with it and so on and so forth. But you will not be able to see any of the Kubernetes components over there. It will become very smooth in one service itself, where Spring Cloud cluster is coming up and the backend is AKS, but I don't see the VMs. It's a very clutter-free way of working. So this is where, and if you're not aware of AKS, this is the fully managed Kubernetes on Azure. So this is Kubernetes, right? Like that. And as you are already aware that more than 70% of the companies in recent years have already started using Kubernetes. So this is providing what they're looking for as such. And then on top of it, it is providing the functionality of being platform independent, easy to work with all the different uh, you can say patterns available in the natively, like service discovery, to make the life easy for developers. Okay, let's do this. I'll sip some water in a second. Let me do that. Okay, so check this out. I have to run some couple of things. I'll just quickly start doing it. Let me see, where have I opened the Azure portal. Now I'm back in Azure portal. Let me refresh this page once. Let me see what was that's my backup resource group where the backup demo is there in case we run out of time or something goes wrong. Okay, so we'll create one resource group over here, and we will give it some name. So this is uh, Reactor demo, like this, if I have not used it. Okay, great. East US works out for me. And let me zoom in so everyone can see. Right. Now, I will be running a lot of scripts as such. I have some templates with me, and I am just quickly scrolling in my secondary screen looking for the template, but I think I found it. So one of the template which I want to run is this one. So what this template will do, it will deploy that MySQL and the Cosmos DB, which we will be binding after 30-40 minutes with the entire microservice deployment. So that takes time to deploy. Uh, Cosmos DB will be like 7 minutes or something, right? So this will basically do that right away. So I will just give the same name, the reactor demo, and I think I have all the other information with me, and I will like to keep it default. Okay, so let's just click on create and let it create. Now, parallelly to that, we will be deploying the other things over there. So I am just going to open my bash window. I have already logged in into Azure, and I have done a couple of things with over here. I have installed Maven, so I can just show it to you that which version is there. Now, when you install Maven, basically I have 3.8.4. Now, when you will be doing this, there are the instructions will be there in the post session links as well. But just to summarize it for you, you have to add the environment variable Maven home in your system variables as such. You go and do it, and in the path, provide the bin path. So that has already been done. And Java JDK 11 is installed, so we can you also will be using that. And the Java home system variable is also set. So you have to do all of that before you can do it. Azure CLI is installed, Git is installed, and you have to log in into Azure and so on and so forth, right? So that's the basic thing which you need to have to be able to do it. Okay, so now we want to deploy the Spring Cloud. We want to deploy this fully managed service which we see in the bottom of the page, this green one, so we can create some microservices inside that after this. So if I just minimize that, and I would like to open one notepad, so I will be running some scripts over here to reduce the time sometimes and just to make overall things faster. So this is, I am setting the resource groups, and let me just quickly copy the name of the resource group which I gave before I forget that. And I will just put it over here. And the name of the Spring Cloud will be, let's say, Shivam's Spring uh, demo. If this name is globally available, if not, we'll get one error, we'll change it and we'll rerun it like that. Now, these are just the variables which we are setting. And then this is the main command, which is deploying the Spring Cloud service in Azure. Over here, basically it just says that Spring Cloud create and so on and so forth. Do it here and there and like that. Okay. Now the location will be EastUS, and I will also be setting some default resource groups and default names like that. You can do it like this. So in case what it does, when you run any script, in case you have missed some resource group naming, putting the resource group in some location, it knows what is a default resource group. It will try to pick up the default resource group and will do the deployment there. So works out in the sometimes, and it's definitely recommended that you define everything yourself. But I have seen that at times it becomes slightly tricky in the live demos. Okay, so let's run it, and let me make this notepad slightly smaller so we can practically work with it. And let's find the bash over here, and we have already logged in, and this will run for next 5-10 minutes. So let it run. Right, we will come back and we'll see it in few minutes if there is any error or not. Okay, so basically this is coming up, the entire service. I'll just do one thing. I'll just show it to you, the one which I already have, to visualize it as such. Now, this is the one which I have already deployed. Now, this is the past solution which we are talking about. And if I just zoom out so you can see, we have the app option here. This is very important configuration option over here. We will be using that. Networking is there. You can also do other type of metric management and logging in and so on and so forth. Now, if I click on the app, this is where your microservices are there. This is how it lists over there. So we have we have 5 microservices. We'll try to deploy them as such, right? And if I click on any one of them, let's see if I can click on city service. Okay, let me click on one of them. Let me go back and try to click on the other one, the one where we have done a blue green deployment. I think this is the one. So if I just click on it, I can basically click on deployments over here, and this is where I we will be doing this blue green deployment as such. in the weather service over there. So it provides the capability of deployments in production as well during your your CD pipeline, during your in your CD pipeline. This is where I have the service bindings. So these service bindings are the ones which will connect to various other offerings of Azure like Cosmos, Redis, MySQL, Postgres, SQL Service Bus, and so on and so forth. So it provides them. We don't have to manage much of the configuration inside the code. You just have to provide some sort of annotation or some sort of less amount of code, and the boilerplate things are now moved outside and managed by the Spring Cloud itself. So these are the bindings which are there. We will be using these bindings in some minutes. The scale up scale out is obviously there in the configuration. You can further specify the is the storage persistent or not. If you're looking for persistent storage, then this is the place you have to do it. I think I didn't needed it, so I have not configured it. But okay, so let's come back and let's see if I can just show you this configuration server over here. So you can see some GitHub link is there over there. One repository from Microsoft is what is there uh, as my final repo. So okay, now let's go back and check. It is still getting created, so we will be waiting for it, but let's continue over here. So service discovery is the first problem which we have to solve. We will be using Eureka to do a client-side service discovery, so microservices can find each other. The client can also find the microservices. Now if you practically think it through, how are you this has to be created somewhere in a sense, and the if I do that, right, or if I just put another piece of puzzle on the in front of you, another problem which you will be facing is that whenever you run microservices, consistency becomes a problem. Consistency, and we are right now talking about the consistency in the configuration management. Now, if you maintain local copy of the configuration, let's say over here, here, and so on and so forth, then that will cause more problems as such. And these configurations will be uh, and this local having a local copy of the configuration doesn't work out. It will create more issues which you have to troubleshoot as such. Now, and it's very logical how to solve it. Instead of maintaining the local copies of the configuration or hard coding or binding it over there, that totally will never work out. What you do, you just have a central configuration server. Like you run one microservice over here, and this is what we will be calling as config server, right? Now this configuration server is provided by Spring Cloud itself. So we will be using Spring Cloud config server, config service over here. Let's say service like this. What happens if you don't want to use this? You want to use something else like Zookeeper, Apache Zookeeper as such. So all those things are also possible. You can go and look up in the documentation how to put Zookeeper over there. Now, but in the most of the deployments, you will be seeing that natively Spring Cloud configuration service is used as such. That's the default one. Now, so what will happen? The microservices will be talking to the configuration server over here, which will be providing them the configuration specific to the application, specific to the environment, specific to the port as such, or any other database connection strings and so on and so forth. So now the next thought which comes to mind is, okay, how is the configuration server maintaining the uh, application configurations as such? So the default or you can say I showed you one tab over there, right? There were config option was there, and we were seeing that GitHub repository was in the location as such. So this is where you can have your repositories, and we will also be using GitHub over here. So this box is representing Git or any online deployment of it, GitHub as such, and all the application you can say configuration files are over here. So these might be for specific to some microservice or something which is common to all of them, application dot some YAML files as such. Now, what this does, this type of management of configuration outside the microservice deployment, what it does, it makes the application cloud native. Now, cloud native applications, if you're aware of them, there are 12-factor app, which is, or there is a concept called as 12-factor app. Now 12, and you can just look up in your search browser and you can go through the entire 12-factor app. We covered it few sessions back, the 12-factor app. Now, one of the or couple of pointers in the 12-factor app which will make the application cloud native was that the configuration should be managed outside as such. And by having this configuration server and by having the repository based application configuration, you will be getting a couple of things over there. Everything will be centralized. Your configuration is centralized. The configuration is external as well. So this is external. And the configuration is also consistent. So there is local copies of configuration is not being maintained. There is a central copy or repository where the configurations were maintained as such, and everyone was referring to that central repository. Now, okay, so now if we do this, right, then the next problem which comes to mind is that how are we going to modify the configuration as such? Let's say you go over here and you change the database connection string, or you made, that's a very big change, but let's say you made some change over there, some configuration change specific to one of the microservice over there, right? Now, how is the microservice going to know that the change has been done and I should pull the new configuration and I should start using it, and so on and so forth? How do we do that? So there are two provisions in Spring Cloud to be able to do that. Now, what the Spring Cloud configuration server does, this is always up to date. This always remains up to date. So this is always up to date like this. Now, but the clients which we have right now, you see, the clients over here, the microservices which are referring to this to the to that configuration service over there, those clients are not, you can say, will not by default come to know that the change has been done. Neither do we want them to know by default, because if you keep on polling any location, then the resources will be utilized. So if the microservice, which is anyways very light in weight and very, you can say, having very limited amount of resources, if that is constantly pulling someone and looking for the change to happen, that anyways is not a very good idea, right? So now what happens to be able to overcome this problem? There is a concept. You can do two things. If I practically let you know, either you restart the services over there, and now no one is going to restart in production as such. So let me just put it there anyways. So you restart. Now, the second thing is the one which is more practical is that you use the actuators which are provided. Now, what Spring Boot does, so if I just say that what Spring Boot does is it provide a concept called as actuators. Now, what these actuators to get the update, so Spring Boot actuators will be getting the uh, updated configuration file, let's say config, and using a hook over there. So there is a hook type concept. Now what happens is basically when the configuration will be updated, the application will be, you can say, we will let the application know that the configuration has been refreshed. Along with this, we have to specify the refresh scope as well. So there are a couple of more things which needs to be done. Like refresh scope basically means that which all uh, apps are going to get the updated configuration. So instead of restarting, we have mechanisms by which real-time configurations can be updated in production if you make the changes over there. So those functionalities are also provided by the Spring Cloud or by Azure Spring Cloud, which is just a PaaS offering on top of it, of which everything is running over there. So I think our let's start deploying now. We have enough on the board to you can say start with the deployment as such, and let's deploy one simple microservice to Spring Cloud, and we will see what are the various things which come on the way over there. And whatever we have in the screen, let's finish that. Once we have deployed this, we will take more things. We'll put an API gateway. We'll understand why do we need it. We'll start the monitoring and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'll just go back and quickly confirm. Yeah, everything got deployed. Let me just show in actually the cluster got deployed. Sorry, the service got deployed. And if I just click on the reactor demo, I'll close the other one so I don't get confused, right? It becomes confusing. So this is yeah, this is the one, correct. So so the template which executed earlier created one Cosmos DB. So if you can see, it created one Cosmos DB over here, one MySQL pass, and we will be using it. And it deployed the Azure Spring Cloud service, which is called as Spring Demo over here, right? And if I just click on it and just show you that we will be configuring everything over there. So this is the one where which we are working with. Okay, so let's go back to the laptop and let's start with some deployments over here. Now, the very first thing is we are creating one basic or simplest possible Spring Cloud application. How do I do it? What is the step number one to do it, and so on and so forth. The most common approach which you will use it, that you will use the Spring initializer as such, and you will come to this and you will say that, okay, I'm looking for a Maven project. I'm looking for Java language as such. Just give me 1 second. Let me sip some water. Okay, now, so what are you looking for? Any versions, any project related metadata, the packaging which is there, jar files, and which Java version are you using? And then this is where the dependencies comes into picture. These dependencies will be added to your pom.xml. Now, if I take you back to the diagram, we were talking about two things right now, right? We were talking about the service discovery using Eureka, and we were thinking about the configuration server, which is natively provided by the service. So if what I have to do is I have to type it like this. I have to search it like that. So the Eureka server is there. We also have the okay, let's type it one more time. So we also have the Eureka client as such. What is the meaning of Eureka client? Basically, these are the clients. The microservices themselves are the client. This client is also the Eureka client over there. Like these are Eureka clients. Let's write it down. Let me just put it over here. So this is Eureka server, and this is all of them are the Eureka clients right now. So like this. So we have to deploy from both the point of view, right? Like this. Now, so this is where the dependencies can be added by using the Spring initializer. Now, what else we talked about was the configuration server. So if I just search for it, and I can see that Spring Cloud config is there, and Zookeeper is also there, and other options are also there, and so on and so forth, right? You select it out. Now, what we are doing is exactly same, but we are using the command line version of the Spring initializer. So we can also invoke the Spring initializer from command line as well. We can do that over here as well. So you can see that I am using curl, and we are creating, we are having dependency. We have not added any dependency right now. We'll do it manually as such on the way. Also, at times we'll be doing it manually. At times we'll be literally trying to see if we can do it as fast as possible. So the base directory is this one. It's basically the name of the microservice which we'll be deploying, simple microservice, and it is using Java version 11 and so on and so forth. So I am initializing the same Spring initializer, but from the command line over here. And let me see if I can copy it. No. Okay. So let's do it like that then. Okay. And hopefully we are in the correct location or not. And let's do it. Now, the okay, now the next thing which we will be doing is I will show you from UI first, and then I will show you from the command line later on, because that will run very fast. I'm going to this app. I want to push it over here. So I have to create the app where I will deploy the jar file later on. So I am creating simple microservice like this. So the simple microservice is the one which I'm going to use, and Java version was 11. The rest is fine. One instance is fine. One works out for us. We'll just create that. We can also do this from the command line. We'll do it later on. After that, we will be using command line, and we'll try to see if we can execute multiple things at the same time, like looking at the time which we have. Now, if I take you back, now so the next thing which we have to do is we have to practically uh, you can say deployed. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me copy some of the things I'm looking for in my secondary screen. Okay, found it. Check this out. So notice this. So this is the simplest possible deployment which you may think of. This is just to get you started, right? Just to get you started. Okay, let's have a look at this. What would we do? We are just going in the directory. It's the simple microservice directory over there. We are creating one hello controller.java file as such. And in this hello controller.java, we have a basic hello controller, which is just returning the hello from the Spring Cloud. Like if you invoke it, it will just say hello, hello world type of thing, right? Like that hello from the Azure Spring Cloud. And then we are just moving this into one of the specific location we are going for. And then we are simply we have already done this from the UI. I don't want to do it from the command line because we did it from the UI, and we are just building the jar files and we are pushing it over there. So you can see we are using a Spring Cloud app deploy in the simple microservice. That's the name which I gave, and as such, and this is where the jar file will be on this part, on this path, and then it will be deployed over there. So this is the simplest deployment which you can do. So let's do the simple one first, and then I'll confuse you out. So let's do this. Okay. Okay, so this may take some time to do it, and let it do what it is doing. And in the meantime, I will just uh, push ahead. Okay. So now what I also want to configure at this point is I uh, will just take you back to the diagram over here. In the meantime, it is running over there. Right. So if I just take you to the diagram, which is over here, there is another thing called as a distributed tracing as such. So when you are deploying something in the Azure cloud, we have application insights, we have log analytics services which are already there. So how can we invoke these services to be able to start doing the debugging and to be able to start doing the logging operations over there? So that is what we are going to enable right now. The the reason we want to enable it first is the uh, because in the next 45 minutes, whatever we are doing will get logged, and then we can go and run some queries over there. If we don't do it right now, then we cannot see the logging later on because it may not happen as such, or there might be no data to show you any queries on. So I will do it right away. So to do this, I will just go back to the Azure tab from where I came, and I am looking for the diagnostic settings over there. And these diagnostic settings are common across all the services of Azure. So you just have to click on the diagnostic settings. There are multiple mechanisms over here. You will say add diagnostics and you will specify some name over there. So let's say I'm saying write to log analytics. I'm not sure if you're aware of log analytics or not. I hope log analytics is one of the oldest solution where the logging happens. This is very similar to on-premises SCOM log monitoring solution. If you know what is SCOM, right? So I want to write all the categories, and I will say all the matrices. Please write it over there. Now, archive, event hub, and partner solutions, I want to say please use the log analytics workspace. And now we have two of them. So which one is the one which we have just deployed? Let's go and find that first, and then we will figure out which one to select. The other one is coming from the previous scenario. Okay, this is the one where we are working, and the log analytics name is basically 7 something something 4A. Okay, so let's select the 4A one. Okay, that's the correct one, and just save it. That's all. right? So all the logging will start. Now what log analytics will do, it will get two things as such, the metrics over there and the logs. When you talk about metric basically means the numbers like CPU utilization, CPU RAM utilization, any number as such. And the logs will be more informative logs, which will be error logs, information logs, and so on and so forth. So that is started as such, and we will just continue what we were doing. And okay, the first microservice got deployed. So if I just show you that it should be running very well over here, you can see it in this tab. It will show one instance running, and there is no registration status as such, and simple microservice Java 11 succeeded over there. Now we will proceed further to the configuration server and the uh, Eureka service discovery. Let's focus on that part now, right? Before I do that, I just want to do one more step. Now, if I just go back to this config server, so if you see, check out our diagram over here, you see this GitHub repository, which is represented here in the box, that we have to specify, right? Now I have this URI, which I have just copied from Microsoft's location. This is Microsoft's repository. It's not my personal repository. So it's a public authentication, but you will be having your own repository, which is private. And then you have to go and create the PAT token in GitHub, get the PAT token, and you give it over here and you connect and it start working. If you want to use any other location, feel free to do that as well. Now, once you do this, just validate and apply. If everything is fine, it will validate and then apply. So we'll just click on the apply operation. So what is this? This is actually this part, the where the application configuration files are there. The application.yaml files are there. This configuration.yaml files over here. This is that part. So we are using the repository provided by them, and we will. And let's have a look at it. Let's open it up. I think it's already copied. So this is the one which I have given over there. So this is the application.yaml file, and we will be using this one in few minutes as such. So if you can see in this application.yaml file, it's a dummy file. There's only a message over there like configured by Azure Spring Cloud config server, like that. That's all. So this is what we will try to print. You may think of any more complicated scenarios. You further go and you can deploy that, but we'll cover all the we'll build your platform for you. So now this is what we would like to be pointing towards. Now I will just go back to my uh, bash shell over here, and I would like to open few of the documentation pages for you because I have few links which I want to share with you. Let me see, where did I saved it, and those will be very useful for us to get started with it. Now, okay, so okay, I'll take you to the documentation itself directly, and you will also find the documentation later on spring.io like this. So I want to show you centralized configuration. That's the configuration server, and I would also like to walk you through the Eureka service. Sure. So, okay, come on, paste. Now, okay, so this is a Eureka server configuration. You can also find it like this, and we'll just have a walkthrough of some of the default configuration, and then we'll do it. So what will happen, like if you are not able to follow the code file, you will know what happens over there. Now, if I go through the Eureka discovery server, basically the very first thing is we need the dependencies. You can use the Spring initializer, or you can manually go and you can add the dependencies in your pom.xml file for as such. So the dependencies needs to be specified, and the dependencies will be having like a Spring Cloud Starter, Netflix, Eureka server like this, right? They need to be added. Now, once you have done that, how do you invoke it in we have annotation concept over here. So if you can see, you can say enable Eureka server, and this annotation for this Spring Boot application will enable the server over there, so it can start and it can go and check in the server will get started basically. Now the server needs to run somewhere. Now the server will be having some default configuration as well. like some default IP address or some default URL where you can find the server. In your practical deployments, you maybe have to specify another URL or IP address as such to be where the server is running. So all those things are totally possible, and your dynamic IP problem will get solved by Eureka. Now, if I take you further down the documentation, so this is where they have deployed some standalone Eureka server. It is running on some port and so on and so forth, like this. Okay, I think that should be enough over here. And when we talk about the centralized configuration server, here you can see that the same thing will happen. We need the dependencies first in the pom.xml. So you put the dependencies first. Now, this is what we were just talking about, that we have the annotations are there, like you can enable the configuration server like this, and you can further. So if I just scroll down and show it to you, that this Spring Boot application is where we have enabled the configuration server. So a lot of management has been taken by the Spring Cloud itself. If you don't have to do it itself, or it will be taking care for a lot of things for you. You will be just have to configure things here and there, and the rest of the communication will happen very smoothly over there. Now, once you have done that, it will be okay. So the configuration server needs to know which repository to manage, which we have already given. We gave it manually few minutes back, but you can also follow this and do it the way they are describing over there, right? So all of those things uh, can be done. Okay, now let's go back and do it. So I'll just quickly continue with the next step. Now want to initialize the Spring initializer. I want to invoke the Spring initializer from the command line. And this time, if I should have, I'll just paste it in the notepad first, so you can all see it, and then I'll just copy paste it. So if you can see that we are using the Eureka and Cloud config client dependencies, so they will get added in the pom.xml, and rest of the things will remain same, like right over there. So if I just go and run it, it's gonna create the project for me, and with all the dependencies as such. Now I will be doing a couple of things over here. So let me okay. So we are over here, and let's open VS Code. So you can use any other editor as well. I have VS Code with me, and let's open VS Code. Okay, so now the same thing which we talked about a few minutes back, that we have to add couple of annotations and so on and so forth. So the annotations which I will be so basically I'm going to the source in the main, and I will click on the on Java, and then basically, and I want to create another file here, the same one, the hello controller.java. Let me copy paste it from my secondary screen. So this is the file which I want to create. And then over here, we will be specifying a couple of things. Oh, this is where, so the properties can be injected by that @value annotation over there. So we are injecting the property, and this information is coming from will be coming from the Spring from the configuration file which is there in the repository, which we were saying some few minutes back, that there was a message over there. So that is what we want to basically get from there. And I will see if I can just enable the autosave so I don't forget to save it. Okay, great. Now the second thing which we have to do is we have to specify the configuration that we are using the configuration server. Now I will just go to the src main resources, and in the application properties over here, I would like to add one line over there, which basically will say that the configuration server is used, but it is optional right now. So in a demo, it will not throw errors if something goes wrong later on. But this is where you can specify more details. Now, once you have done this, you basically have sort of deployed it. Now, what I'll do, I will just try to see if I can do the next steps slightly uh, quickly over here. Now we haven't created the app in the Azure Spring Cloud. So this is how we are doing it. That's the thing which I was doing earlier manually. So this is now we will run the command for it. So Azure Spring Cloud app create Spring Cloud microservice runtime Java 11. This should do that. And then we want to build the jar file. We haven't done that as well. I think we should test it locally, but I think it's gonna run as well. If not, then we'll go and we'll troubleshoot. So we are basically will be doing a clean package creation, and then we are pushing that Spring Cloud deploy into that Spring microservice, and this is the location of the artifact. Now let's copy this and put it in the. Let me see, where am I? Yeah, it's fine. So let's do that. This will take some time to run. In the meantime, it is running. We'll move ahead. We'll further push ahead, and we'll see if we can do some more things in this meantime. Now, if I just take you back to the logging which we have done, we should be getting some logs by this point in time. We have done few operations as such, or as such. So if I just click on the Spring Cloud over here, and if I click on the logs, this is the redirection which is happening to the log analytics workspace. Now we will just close this default one, and I can show you that we will be able to get the logs in few minutes if everything goes fine. We'll wait for it. We'll just wait for it. There might be no data because uh, okay, so we'll come back and we'll run the queries, but you will see that the logs can be gathered in this manner over here. The let me show you the binding part. The how Spring Cloud can do the binding as such. Now we have the weather microservice which we are going to work with is basically using Azure Cosmos database. It is not using it right now. We want it to use it, and MySQL as such. Uh, as the database over there. So we have to do the binding, and then we have to use it inside the code. So how to do that? We basically have to click on the Cosmos DB. I think this is the 174A and so on and so forth. I'll go to Data Explorer. I have no data over there. It's totally vanilla. I'm just assuming you have some idea of Cosmos DB. It's a distributed database as such. And if I just quickly take you back to the diagram, what we are doing over here is we are creating one binding like this, and this is where we have the namespace of the Cosmos DB, and Cosmos DB is running very happily globally in all the regions as such, and it's a semi-structured database, so it will be having you can have various type of data. You can have various type of modes over there. You can have SQL mode, you can have Cassandra mode, and so on and so forth, key value pair mode, and graph mode. All those modes are there, but this is where Cosmos DB is. We would like to do a binding with this Azure Cosmos DB. Azure Cosmos DB, right? And then we want to get some data from it. So that's what we would like to do as such. We have no data over there. So I'll just quickly go and manually do it for you. So if I just take you and we can push all these blades back, right, to make it slightly bigger. Now I just want to click on we should have one container there, city container as such. So the weather microservice, the weather solution which we are creating will get you the weather information which is based on the cities as such. Like you'll have the weather of various cities globally. So that data needs to be there somewhere. So the city data is basically what we are pushing it in this. And okay, click. Great. I'll manually enter it. So basically, I want to add two items. Now, item is equal to one row in relational database, right? And city, the left-hand side container which you see, city, that is equal to the table in relational database. Just to, if you want to remember it. Now I am adding two rows, which is what you can say them, which you can call them in relational databases. But here we'll just call them items or documents. So two documents are there. It is having information about London, and it is having information about Paris as such over there. Now I will go back to my Spring Cloud, and I will just also see whether deployment is successful or not. Great. So let's see if the data logs are already there, or do we have to wait further for them. Great, the logs are there, and you will be able to get all the the things, shutting down some discovery client, unregistering, or whatever has happened. You will get all the information like this. Now I'll open another tab so I can use them in few minutes. Now we will go back to the Spring Cloud and we will do the binding over there. So let's quickly find the resource group, and the that's the one. I should have named it separately, but okay. Now this is the one which we are using, the one over here. And now to be able to do the binding, I'll click on the application. And once I have clicked on the application, I will basically click on this Spring Cloud microservice. And in the, oh, sorry, just give me 1 second. So we have to do a few more operations over here. I just noticed it. Okay, I have skipped few of the things. Now I am just going to open my whiteboard and do few more things for you. So I'm creating another microservice which is called as the city service. The city service is supposed to go to the Cosmos DB and get the information. And I forgot to make the city service, and we were thinking about doing the binding. So let's come one step back and make the city microservice first, which is going to get the information from the Cosmos database in the first place. So I am just initializing the using the Spring initializer. I'm just creating the using the dependencies of Eureka and all the client. We just want to create the project first, and let me make it, and then we will like to see the dependencies are not managed. I will show it to you manually. So let's open VS Code again, and this time we are going to go to the pom.xml, and previously we have not seen it, but let's add some dependencies over there. So we want to get the data from Cosmos DB. So let me see if I can zoom in first. Sorry, view, and so you can see. Now I will just cancel that. Now we want to add the dependencies of Azure Cosmos DB. So now I will be adding them over here, and you can see all the other dependencies are there. So this is a pom.xml file. So the Eureka dependencies and all those should be here. If I can, okay, great. See, Spring Cloud started. That's what I was showing you earlier. I just want to add the Cosmos DB, so I'll just add it over here. Oh, sorry, I think it didn't got copied. Let me copy it one more time from my secondary screen. Okay, like this. So Azure Cosmos DB version something something. Okay, let me do that. Now let's okay. So the okay, so what we are going to do is we want to create the application which will get the data from the database, right? So I am just going to go to the main Java, and we will be creating one file over here, which we will be naming as demo application. Sorry, which will be named as city, city.java, and let me make it here. Now this is where we are going to create a class city, and that is the one which is going to get the name from the which is going to get the name data from the Cosmos DB, but we will just quickly save it. And I would like to create the city controller, which will actually run the query and get it for us. So I am going to add one more file over here, which is the city controller. And this is where I am just going to copy paste a big snippet, and we'll just look at the query over there. So if you're aware, or just FYI, Cosmos DB supports running of SQL queries. So you can get your you can run SQL queries on top of Cosmos DB, which is a semi-structured database, right? So we are getting the cities from the Cosmos DB. The C stands for container as such, whatever the container is. The container name is literally city over there inside Cosmos DB. So let's save it. And and we have actually not created the app in the Spring Cloud. So I will just 1 second. Let me see what have I done. Oh yeah, correct. So we'll just quickly create the app in the Spring Cloud in Azure. So this is going to do that, what we were doing manually earlier. So it's going to create city service over there. Now inside this city service is basically where I want to do the uh, jar file deployment. Now let's go and do the binding, which I was trying to do earlier. Let's go back and let's go one page back and see if that comes up. Yeah, I think it's still getting deployed, but let me see if it let me click on it. We may have to wait for a few seconds for it to do that. So it is creating that city app over here like this. Now, okay, I think more or less it should be it's still doing something, but let's go and check it in the portal once. Let's refresh and see it is still getting deployed. So let's give it a couple of more seconds and I'll sip some water in the meantime. Okay, so we are still waiting for it. Great. Okay, provisioning state creating. So it should be up in any second now. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll anyways just wait for it, but I'll click on the config. I'll click on the service binding over there, like this, and we'll just click. We'll fill up the form over there, right? Let's not waste. Let me not waste your time, and we'll just quickly try to see if we can uh, cover the entire CI/CD pipeline till today, right? So let's say Cosmos DB City. That's the name of the binding which I'm creating. It's like a connection configuration which I'm doing. Subscription is my subscription. Cosmos DB is what we want to connect to. Resource name was the 7. This is the Cosmos DB name. API is literally SQL API. The other options are also there. That's not the mode what we are using. That's the database name. The key will be master key. So uh, and great. I think it's done. So let's just click on create. Now I will do the deployment of the jar file into this city service into this city microservice. So I'll just go back and let me see where am I right now. Okay, city. And let's just do that. So this is the same thing, right? Like we are just creating the jar file and the build will happen and then the AZ Spring Cloud deploy will deploy it. So that's where the deployment is going to happen. Now, once this has finished, we can start testing it as well. So the test operation which we want to do is so if we basically if we hit the endpoint of city service, it should get Paris and it should get uh, London from the Cosmos database. The items which we are added over. The items is the data documents which we have added over there. So the URLs will be visible here once your deployment is successful, and it may take few seconds for the deployment to happen. So I will just copy and I'll construct what I have to construct. So this is the test endpoint. Now I am going to go back to the notepad and I will just put it over there so all of you can see. And that was the test endpoint. And I want to get the cities from it. So cities is the endpoint. I want to get the cities as such. That's the endpoint we are hitting. And we will just curl it out. So something like this. If everything is fine, this should get Paris, France, London, UK for us as such. That should be visible. And we'll just go back to the diagram and we'll try to trace back what we have done. We'll do a revision first. I think it's a very long demo till this point, but let's see if it has deployed. Okay, let's see if it is working fine or not. And Okay, so we are getting that information. See, Paris, France, and so on and so forth, and so on, like that. Okay, so things are working fine. So, but what is happening right now is that the we don't have an API gateway right now in this example. We will be deploying it. So now I will be doing two things as such. I will also be creating uh, one binding to the MySQL, but I would like to come back and revise first what we have discussed, and then I'll just show you the MySQL binding and the weather service. So there is another service which we are deploying. So this one was the city service. City was getting the city information from Cosmos DB. There is another one which we are going to deploy, which is called as a weather microservice. Imagine them to be these circles over here. So this weather microservice is going to get the information from MySQL. So using the same method, we have to do the binding over there. MySQL is totally empty. There is no data over there. So we will be creating one database and we will be pushing some data so we can get some data from it, right? That's one thing. Now, after that, what we are going to do is we'll put one API gateway here. Now, the reason we want to put the API gateways, there can be many reasons. First of all, that it will, you can say all your microservices will not be exposed to internet. You will have less surface area of attack. You can monitor it. You can do authorization, authentication on top of the API gateway, right? You can do many more uh, type of, you can say things on top of it. So this is where Spring Cloud provides Spring Cloud Gateway. Now, Spring Cloud Gateway. If you are aware of Azure solutions, right? So you may think of we can integrate the gateway with many of the Azure offerings. Like we have Traffic Manager, we have Front Door in Azure, we have Application Gateway in Azure. It's a layer 7 load balancer, or we have the layer 4 load balancer, Azure load balancer. So all of those integrations are possible. If you have to do it, you can practically put those as well over there. Now, so this Spring Cloud Gateway needs to be created, and this is going to be another service itself, right? So it's a microservice. I think we should have made this inside the box, but I hope you're getting it. So, and it will be you can say routing the request to the correct microservices whenever the request comes. This is what we would like to further continue with. Now I'll just quickly start doing it. And the very first thing is we have to do the binding for we don't have the weather service. We don't have it yet. We don't have the MySQL as well. So we'll do the binding. So I will be running a couple of things for you. So if you notice it first, so the weather service is not there. That needs to come up. And once the weather service so the weather service needs to come up, and then after that there are other things which we want to do. I'll just paste the command. Okay, have a look at this. Now what it will do is basically it is getting the name of the MySQL server from my resource group, which I have made the default resource group. It will get the MySQL server name, username as well, host name over there, password I know it's somewhere in my secondary screen. Now it will now by default every PaaS database in Azure is having a firewall over there. So we have to do whitelisting in the firewall. If we don't do it, it will not connect. Right. So that whitelisting will happen over there. We are whitelisting literally all the IP addresses in the world, which you can further go and reduce, and you can have a more a private endpoint creation. And we will create one database inside the MySQL. So the wrapper is there. The database will create, and we'll just print it out that it worked or not. Now, after we have done this, so let me see if I can copy it correctly. Okay. Now, what this will do, and in the meantime, it is running. Let's see what it will do. Okay, I think it should run. Now, so this is the MySQL. So that's a wrapper, like we call this logical servers. So there's a logical server. It's a PaaS solution, right? So there is nothing VM is not there as such. It's a logical server. And inside the logical server, we are creating the MySQL DB. Now inside this MySQL DB, we have no data. So we will be pushing some data as well. And along with that, we are working on this weather microservice. so that weather microservice, and we will create one binding to the MySQL, and it will be getting the information from there. We are more or less we are about to finish the weather part of it. We'll see. We'll do the CI/CD after that. Now, so and we will be doing the API gateway creation as well. And this should be technically inside the dotted box. It's basically we're deploying the API gateway, which is also a microservice, right? So, but we will be putting it over. I have done it over here. So we'll just continue with it. And let me take you to the Azure portal. In the meantime, let's go one page back and let's click on the apps, and the weather service is coming up. It is getting created. We'll just click on the binding and service binding, and this time it's going to be called as the weather DB. Okay, MySQL resource name should be this one, 7L, like that. Database was supposed to be Azure Spring Cloud Training. It is yet not there. So is it? Let me see. App got created. Okay. What about the other commands? I think it's still doing something. Okay. We'll just give it a couple of more seconds. The database is yet to be created. Okay. In the meantime, I'll just find the password in my secondary screen of the database, which I gave earlier. Okay. So I have it handy with me. So as we are speaking, let's please ask your questions in the chat window, right? I'll just quickly summarize it for you. So this is where we have reached. We are binding the MySQL, where we will have the weather data for the weather microservice as such over there. And before this, we have done the Cosmos binding, and all these functionalities are provided very smoothly. You must have seen how smoothly we are able to do the bindings, and we are doing the configuration server connection and all those using the Spring Cloud as such. So this is what it provides. It's in a very, you can say, coordination is what it provides in a very fully managed way. Okay, done. So let's go back to the Azure portal, and we may have to close this tab and add it one more time. So we'll give it a name WeatherDB, and then we will do the binding with MySQL, and the resource name will be this one. Database name should be Spring Cloud Training. Username should be here. That's the username. And password only I know. So moment of truth. Otherwise, I have to show you how to reset the password. And that's the one what should be there. Okay, great. Now, once this is done, we would like to okay, 1 second. We have not done the deployment yet. Like this is empty. There is nothing running in this. It's like a empty thing over there. Let me see till where have I done it before. So we created the service over there, one instance. Yeah, there is totally empty. There is nothing over there. So we have to do we will initialize the Spring initializer, and we will create we will basically do what we have done before. We'll open VS Code, and we are using the weather. So let's go inside the weather directory, and okay. So now we would like to get the data from MySQL. We don't even have data in MySQL, so there are a lot of things which we need to do over here. So want to add the data as well, and I am just going to go to the I'll create a couple of things over here. So one file which I'm creating is called as weather. weather.java. And this weather.java is basically going to, and this, okay, let me see what do I have to put over there. Is basically getting the description, setting the details of the weather as such, and we are creating a couple of more things. Another weather repository to, okay, so another file over here. Okay, so this is the weather repository.java. And so whatever I'm showing you, this is, I'll give you the exact documentation, right? It's a workshop, it's in a workshop manner, so you will do it at your own pace, but it will be available to you to do it. Now I would like to just go ahead and add one controller, and I would like to add a couple of things over here. So this is the weather controller, and yeah, correct. We should have, yeah, that we'll remove. We don't need it right now. And let's save this. And then I am just going to, I have no data with me, so I would like to create something if needed. So I will just say Hibernate automatically create things for me, and I will save it. And then I am just going to run some SQL queries as such. So to run the SQL queries, I'll just go to the source main resources, and we will be uh, creating one file over here. It will be like a import.sql file over there. So import.sql. So this is how we are uh, ingesting the data inside the database. We don't have any data right now to work with. It's just a demo, right? So we are inserting into, so have a look at this. So we are inserting into Spring Cloud training database, weather, city description, icon, values, and so on and so forth, like that. So all of this will go there. Now we will be deploying it. So let's go back. So this is where the jar file will get created and will be deployed inside the weather microservice. And okay, let it do that. Now, what I am also doing is at the same point in time while it is running, we'll just have a look at this Spring Cloud Gateway, right? We'll do that. Now, when you want to deploy the Spring Cloud Gateway, what happens is basically we would like this gateway to be able to communicate with the discovery service, the Eureka service. So we have to enable that. So there is a configuration you will see, and in the application or YAML file, you will see me put true over there, which will enable the communication between the gateway and the discovery server as such. Now, apart from that, we will also be enabling us some more things over there. So let me just go back and see if I can do it or not. Okay, let me check out any questions in the chat in the meantime. Okay, no questions. Great. Okay, so what is this operation? This is basically building the jar, and it is deploying it inside the weather microservice over there. And once this has done, we just have to finish it. It's like we have to do a little bit of CI/CD deployment and so on. So great. Now I'll just do one I will just do the Spring Cloud Gateway part. Same thing. I will create one service, and in this and this service is basically the gateway service. And let's go in the gateway service, and we are going to add the we want to enable the discovery communication from the gateway as well. So I will just go to the application.properties. Still opening up. Okay. And this is where I'm going to put it. So basically Spring Cloud Gateway discovery location enabled. That's what we want to understand like that. So Spring Cloud Gateway discovery location enabled like this. And we are also enabling the CORS basically. So CORS request can also will be allowed. They will not get the errors as such. So let's save it. Okay, now we will just deploy it. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just run 2-3 commands so we can just have a look at that. So the gateway service in the cloud will be created over here, and this is where we'll build the jar file and we'll deploy it inside that. So let's copy it up and let's run it in one operation over here. Okay, so check this out. Just to summarize, what have we done till this point? We have the weather, we have the city, and we have we have the configuration microservice, and another one simple microservice, which is anyways just over there for the purpose of being there. That was the first deployment which we did. Now what we want to do is, in the meantime it is getting created, I want to show you some of the like how are we going to invoke the gateway. So now what should happen is that when we are hitting the gateway, if we specify the endpoint, the same request should come back. If you remember, a few minutes back we ran one particular curl command, and what that curl did, it just got the information from the uh, about the cities as such. So this is where we were hitting the that particular city microservice directly. What happens if I don't want to do it like that? I don't want to expose my city microservice as such. I would like to hit the gateway, and then the gateway should be able to direct it to the city endpoint. So that is what we would like to check, that whether it is working or not. So we hit this and it goes to city and weather and so on and so forth. So if we just construct it in the meantime, yeah, okay. So we'll give it a couple of more minutes to run. Now, okay, the last thing which we are doing after that, once this will come up, we'll do that. But I will just want to show you the same page. So this is one front end which is hosted by uh, Microsoft itself, and it's basically a static website which is there in storage accounts. So you must be aware that in Azure Storage Account you can have a static website, and if you want to improve the performance, you can improve the performance by using the CDN. You can enable CDN endpoint for storage account, and it start becoming like a proper high performant static website. So this blue color website which you see is there in the storage account right now, and we want to and if I just snip it out, right? So let's snip it out. So and let's put this in our diagram as well. So where is this in the diagram? Let's copy this and let's go back over here on the left of the gateway, somewhere here. So this is what we finally want to do. Like so that's the front end, and the customer is basically using this front end. There is a Spring Cloud Gateway behind it, and then we have all the services which are running in Azure Spring Cloud, which is running on Kubernetes, and it is where the service discovery is going on. Cloud configuration is there. App configuration files are there in the in GitHub, and so on and so forth, right? Like that. So let's check out whether the gateway got created and deployed. Then we just will check the last part. Okay, so this is still going on. Oh, as not on time. So let me go and find the endpoint. Basically, I want to check it before I put it in the front end. So the endpoint will be somewhere over here. Let's go back to the tabs. Now I have a lot of tabs open. I hope I don't get confused in so many tabs over there. So the gateway is basically here. Says succeeded. Okay, let's test it out. That is the private endpoint. I don't want to use the private endpoint now. I have it as the public endpoint. It's a public gateway. Uh, right. So this is the public one. So I'll copy the public endpoint. That should work. And then we are just going to go back and we're just gonna replace this. So we have to specify the name of the microservice and then the endpoint. So I have to put a slash here, and the name of my microservice was city service like that, and then cities was the endpoint. I think this is the one. So let's see if it still gets the city data. And okay, so oh no, not found. uh, Let me see. Mm, it's city service, and let me go back and check it out. The previous deployment which I have done to find the difference over there now, and let's go and check till which point have we done it. Okay, the build is successful. Okay, let's try one more time. We'll see. Okay, now so okay, let's try the weather service. Let's see if the weather is running, or if so we can trace it, like we can find that till which point is it working and from which point do we have to sort of troubleshoot it. So the weather is basically somewhere over here. That's the endpoint like this. So let's try it out. Okay, so I think the city service has some the gateway has some issue, so we can trace it back, right? Let's go and find it, and let's go back and check it out over here. What's happened in the gateway? Now I will just quickly have a. I'll just open the gateway, and let's trace it back from here, and let's quickly check it out. So okay, yeah, looks fine. Okay, anyways, looks totally fine. This is looks totally fine as such. So what we'll do, we will go one resource group back and we'll just pick it up from there. So if I show you what it was supposed to do, which I must have done some changes somewhere, but if I just go back to my gateway, this is how it should have behaved. So let's copy the endpoint from here. Okay, and let's go back to the URL, and let's see what happens to this. So this is the exact same deployment. It is the backup deployment which I have already in place. If the time runs out, then we just go there and we check it out. So let's see. Let's try it out. Okay, so see, now what is happening is basically we are getting the data. The using the gateway, we are able to hit the endpoint of the microservices, and they are getting the data from the databases, right? Let's check out the other endpoint also. So the cities are coming perfect fine, and then we are also have the weather as such. So let's say how is the weather in Paris. So we are having a fog there. It's very cloudy as such. Okay, done. Now the last thing which we are going to do is we are just gonna take this up, right? And now this is what I started with, that in the end of it we will be just putting it somewhere like that, and we will be running it like this. So this is that front end which is and if I show you what it is doing, just to clarify that, it becomes very interesting now. See, check this out. So if I just want to show you what is going on over there, I would like to take you to my application map. I would like to understand the dependencies. I would like to understand the latency between the resources. I want to understand how much latency is there between my weather microservice and the Cosmos DB, sorry, City and Cosmos DB, and weather and MySQL. I want to know that. I want to understand from where people are uh, hitting my solution, and what is the response time which they are getting, what is the performance which are getting, what are the errors which they are getting. So I want to figure out all the things. I would like to have the I would like to do the distributed tracing over there. If I can, I think the page is still open. Let's say over here. So how can we do the same thing in Azure? What is the Azure component of the distributed tracing? So to be able to do that, I'll just take you back to the uh, application insights over here, and we will click on the application map. So if you, and then we should zoom in over here to read it out, but have a look at this. This is providing us the information. One second. Okay. Okay, I think that was more intuitive. So let's zoom in now. So basically, if I arrange it properly, okay, this is the gateway over here. Okay, this is the gateway over here. So this is where this is the gateway in our diagram, like that. It's sort of reversed right now in that application map. And the latency between the gateway and uh, the this is mm, uh, the latencies are here on this edges over here, 36 millisecond to 240 calls. This is the one which I already have set up, right? This is the city service. Now the city service was talking to the Cosmos DB. So what is the latency between that? So the latency between this is basically that Cosmos DB, this one over here, the circle over there, and that's the city service. The latency is 8 milliseconds. 10 calls have been done. The weather service was talking to the MySQL. So let's see, where is that weather service? Okay, this is the weather service, and this seems to be the MySQL one right now, or some 29 calls are there, and so on and so forth. This one is another service like that. So this is the application map where you can find the dependencies between your applications, and you can have more, you can say UI integrations as such. You can change it and have a look at it in this manner as well. Now, how do I find the performance over there? If I show you the live metric, this is literally the live metric. Like if we the real time metrics will be there. So the page connects like that, and we will be getting real time information about the performance of things, incoming request, outgoing request. Let's try it out. Let's say go a couple of times over here. So let's see if we are able to make any graph move over there. Okay, and I have to quickly find it. Yeah, if you can see that. So right, like this. So incoming request, outgoing request, overall health, the server name which is getting invoked, how many CPU utilization as such, and so on and so forth. So this is where the sample telemetry is there. You can click on it and find more details. This is the overall performance, the average as such, where you can see that things are sort of mm, how many overall get happened, how many the city was in the city endpoint was invoked, how many times, what was the average duration, and so on and so forth. So this is where we have the entire tracing track inside Azure with the help of log analytics and application insights created. Now there is one more thing which I want to cover, where we are talking about the deployments. Now we have around 10 minutes with us. So what I will do, I will just go back and I will take you back to the blue-green deployment which I was showing you earlier. So if I take you to my weather service, so I will provide you this entire workshop, but in the workshop, when you click on the weather service, we will be doing the blue-green deployment there. We'll be making some changes as such, and those changes will be further deployed. So we have the capability of doing that by using something like this. I'm just gonna put the command up for you, is like this. Check this out. So the Spring Cloud app set deployment in the same weather service, the new deployment app which I'm doing, and set it as green. The first one will be the default one, which is the production one, and then the green one comes over there. And how do you flip it? If you have to sort of make the green the traffic, if you want the gateway to route the traffic to the green, or you want to stake the staging to the green, you have to sort of flip it, you have to swap it. So that functionality is also there where you can do that. I think I showed you the wrong command first. I showed you the next command where we are doing the where we are flipping it. And let me just put one more over here so you get an idea of what we are talking about. So what we did first, we did the green deployment in the same weather app service. It is running the Java 11 and so on and so forth. Then what happened once you do this, you will be having the staging environment ready, and then you swap it. So for swapping, you can run something like this. Once you run it, the traffic from the gateway will start hitting the or the staging will become live when you do that. The Till that point, traffic will not be hitting your staging environment. Once you set it as production environment, it will be hitting over there. Now, one more very interesting thing which we would like to see is that how can we automate this? Whatever we have done it manually. We did it literally from the portal and so on and so forth. What happens if we want to create a CI/CD pipeline with this, with Azure Spring Cloud? What are the functionalities? If to do that, we have all the tools which are there. We are right now concerned about the Azure tools. Like we have Azure DevOps, and we have GitHub Action, which is inspired from Azure DevOps. So to create the GitHub Action, there are a couple of things which needs to be done. So which I'll just walk you through this. So the very first thing is you will create your repository, and let's say that is your GitHub repository over there. Now in this GitHub repository, and then you go to Azure and you create one service principal over here in Azure. And this service principal, you give it in the secret over there inside the repository. Once you have done that, I'll show you how it is done. But once you have done that in your repository, we will create one directory with called as workflow, and uh, github.workflow as such. So that github.workflow will be where the workflow file will be there, where we are doing the CI/CD deployment. So let's say this is the workflow like this. So let's go and have a look at this. So this is a repository, and let me see where is my cursor. Okay, check this out. Okay, so now what we have done, this is the directory which we have. Uh, GitHub/workflows. Your Azure GitHub Action YAML files should be here. If they're anywhere else, they will not run, right? They should be here. Now, here if I click on one of them, so if you can see, this is the GitHub Action YAML file as such. This is what GitHub Action will look like. Now, there are a couple of elements in this, right? This is the name of the workflow, build and deploy to Azure Spring Cloud. This is the whenever you need to trigger a pipeline, you may schedule it, manually run it, or it may run on some event as such. So if any event happens, and because of that event, the workflow execute, that needs to be defined. So we define it over here in this push. Like when should it happen? So the event is basically push. If push happens, then run the workflow over there. When the workflow runs, it has jobs inside it. Now workflow may have one or more jobs, right? So if there are more than one job, I can make two boxes like that, right? They may run parallelly or sequentially as such based on your configuration. Right now I have one job over there. So I will just make one box over there, something like this over here. Now this is representing that job, this inner box which I have. Now this job runs on one runner. the runner is actually a VM. It's a virtual machine as such. Now it can be hosted in your subscription, or it might be hosted in by GitHub, and you just have to pay for it in your enterprise plan over there. So, but the individual steps needs to execute in some location. So compute of the runner is used. So this is called as runner. And right now, this runner is basically defined here. So the job is called as build and deploy. And what is a runner? Ubuntu latest. That's the runner where it will be there. Now this runner can be in my subscription. It can be over in hosted by GitHub as well. So both options are there, self-hosted and the cloud hosted options are there. Now inside this runner, steps will execute. If you can see this, right? So we have steps over there. Now these steps are the ones where we are defining all the things like what needs to be done. So step one, step two, step three. They run sequentially. You can skip and all those concepts will be there. If you don't want to run some stuff, you can do it. But this is where you can run scripts or you can have predefined actions over there. So let's put it somewhere like that. Scripts and actions. Imagine in this manner, right? Like that. Now, if I just show it to you, see, the first one which I have is set up the Java. So check out the code, uh, set up the Java, uh, specify Java version, the Maven, the build with Maven. Another step is there, build with Maven. The uh, so the first step is this one, basically over here, set up the Java. The second name is called as build with Maven. The third is log into Azure Spring Cloud. Now to execute this particular step, so if we go back over here, so imagine over here the login is happening. So over here login is happening. Now to be able to log in, you need to have some authentication and authorization against the subscription. So this is where service principal comes into picture. So before you can do that, you have to go back to your Azure portal, right? You have to run some scripts, or otherwise you go to the Active Directory over there. And in the Active Directory, you basically click on the application registration over here, and you do one registration as such. You click on the one. This is the one which I have done earlier. So this one, and then it is having some information over there, application ID, tenant ID. Take all the information, go back to your repository, and just let me duplicate this page so I can show what next needs to be done. Go to the settings over there, and then first of all zoom out so we can all see. Then in the secret, add the secrets over here like this. So these secrets will be pulled inside the workflow. So if I show you that, that is where all the service principal information is over there. So if you can see that we are trying to log in into Azure using Azure credential, and what is Azure credential is having service principal information inside it. So now the so that will get. Now what is a subscription ID? So here we are running. So if you run this command, so think it through, like what this will do is literally you are executing something inside that VM in the shell over there. So as we were just talking, that there can be some predefined actions which are defined by you or by GitHub or by the community, or you can run some scripts also. So this is where that particular PowerShell line comes, and you are running that over here. So CLI, Azure CLI basically. Now, then what we are doing, the next step which we are executing is deploy to Azure Spring Cloud. So this is where we are using the action which is there. So if you just Google for this, you will find all the details of it. So I think the diagram just is little smaller, but there are more actions over here, just below it, right? Now, so once we do this, this is going to do the deployment in the subscription ID. The service name I have given, that's my service name of my Azure Spring Cloud service name. And I am going to do the deployment in the weather service over there. And then is it staging? No, this one is literally false over here. And what's the jar file, the location of that? So if when this executes, right, it basically will be visible here in your actions over there. And if I just click on it, this is the one which last executed. And all the steps which you have are visible here. So if you get any error, you will be able to see the errors as such, like set up the job, run some action, log in to Azure, as such, get the subscription ID, deploy, and so on and so forth. So the entire pipeline we can put in, you can embed test cases as well over here. You can have the entire pipelines created. So we did a few sessions a couple of week back, uh, I think on Jan 5th, where we covered the CI/CD with GitHub in depth. So if anyone is interested in how to really create the CI and CD pipeline, just go back in the a few week back, and the entire in-depth session is there. So that will make more sense. But now by having this, we are able to deploy the you can say you can create your CI/CD pipeline, and now you can provide the incremental changes to the end customer as well. So all the developers are checking in the code, and you can do the vulnerability scans. You can shift left in the security. You can uh, you can measure, you can plan, you can learn from it, and you can create the artifact, and the artifacts are getting further stored and further getting deployed, and so on and so forth. So once we have done all of this, well, you will notice that we are able to deploy things in a Azure Spring Cloud environment, which is totally platform, you can say, which is decoupling the microservices from the platform, and it will run the same way in any other location as well. Now, another interesting thing which I have over here for you is we can do the, if you have business logic which you want to run in basically as a serverless application, it totally can be done as well. So I will just take you back. Now, this part will be very easy for you to understand because we have taken the longer approach of understanding each and every line. Let me see, where did my function go? It's not in this resource group. Then it might be in some other resource group over there. Yeah, okay, this is the one. So basically, if I would like to show what I have done is I have created a simple uh, hello world Spring Boot application, and the deployment of that is done to the Azure function. Let me see if I can show you the commands which I have for that. And okay, now then, so this is where the entire is Spring Boot functions are running right now. So if I click on the functions over there, this is where I have the hello world. So whatever we have done, uh, the entire functionality of Spring Boot is available to run in a serverless mechanism, where and your business logic is running in the serverless mechanism, which is uh, consumption based. So you will be able, it will, you can say, scale down to 0 instances, and it will be having functionalities where you can specify that you don't want a cold start, so you want to keep on running some job over there, or you want to keep it alive. So all those functionalities are there. So now once I deploy the and I'll just quickly do one thing. Just give me a second. I will show you a couple of interesting things. Okay, so I'll just go to my secondary screen, and I'm looking for the the link which we will be able to follow. So I will just open it again over the okay, yeah. So basically, this is what that is in a sense. So we have the exact same setup. We have technically there is no difference. The deployment location is different over there, and we are running the hello function script. So now the changes which are there is basically in your pom.xml, and I should be able to show it to you. Let me just open the pom.xml from the one which I have with me. So let's find VS Code. Let me practically show this to you. So let's click on File, and Let me find the location. Oh, it's some other location as such. Okay, so yeah, great. Now, okay, now the in the pom.xml, in the specific dependencies which you have to add will include the locations where your functions will be running, the resource groups where you want to deploy that, and the name of the functions. So the name of the function will be, you can say, unique asset. You can pre-create it and push it later on, or you can create it the way we have done it over here in the pom.xml, and then this at the runtime it will create it and then push it inside that. So now once we do this, now what it will provide us is that I can also run my business logic, which is totally serverless, right? So the Spring Cloud, I don't have space in the diagram, but let's put it here. So Spring Cloud is also providing the decoupling nature from the cloud by, so this is Azure function. And let's say this is where we have the Spring Cloud function, Spring Cloud function on top of Azure function. And this is where your function code is there. It is now to, you can run it anywhere. Later on, if you want to go to another platform, it is not binded with the cloud. It is not, you're not logged in with the vendor. You will be able to freely move around. And in your microservice architecture, the function might be one of the microservice which is getting invoked on one of the trigger. Let's say this comes and it triggers that like this. So it creates the entire ecosystem for you to be more productive with by using these functionalities over there. So this is what we had for the session today, where we check the ecosystem of Spring Cloud on Azure and where we can do the deployments and so on and so forth. Now I am putting the link for the workshop in the chat window. It's publicly available. You all can just, even if anyone looks at this video later on YouTube, just Google for Azure Spring Cloud training from Microsoft. You will find the link over there. So I think Rashmita has already put that in the chat. So that is great. Yeah, okay, that's great. Okay, so guys, ask your questions, think it through. Let me know if what comes to your mind. And otherwise, we will wind up with the session after that.
Your mics are also enabled right now, so if you have any question, you can just unmute and ask question to Shivam.
Load balancing. How can we do the load balancing as such? Now, there are okay, I'll do one thing. I'll map it with Azure. I will take it to Azure's mapping as such. Now, just one second. I'll show you one page where we are doing the integration with Azure load balancers. And I will redirect. We'll walk through it. We'll go through that particular documentation, and then you will be able to do it. Okay, so have a look at this. So we are able to integrate with the Azure load balancing solutions, the all the solutions which are there. And this link is also in the chat window in case you are thinking about it. So for example, if you want to go with the DNS routing mechanism traffic manager. So, but this is used if you don't have, when you don't, so this is the scenario where the protocol should not be HTTPS. When it is HTTPS, we go for with front door as such. And when if you are looking for the path-based routing or SSL offloading, then the application gateway comes into picture. So this is the correct page where you will find the integrations with all the uh, different type of load balancing mechanisms, and it will be very straightforward. For example, we will be let me see if I can show you some of the pages over here. Okay, so this is basically an application gateway in Azure, and in application gateway we have the backend pool where the traffic will get routed to. So the Spring Cloud is the backend pool over there, so that is being added. And then you can go and further check out the health check and so on and so forth. Any specific path, same thing will be done for the front door as well. So front door is that will provide the acceleration for your application, and it will also provide the the capability of using the Microsoft Azure backbone fiber optic network versus your traffic flowing over the internet. So check out the front door. This is the correct page where you should be looking for that. Okay, so how can I build these apps shown in the workshop with Java 8 also? Yeah, most of them will work. Maybe some error will come here and there. You can check it out. Right? Okay, so okay, so any other question, guys? Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll also put my LinkedIn profile in the chat window. Whenever you have any question, even if let's say you uh, got any question after some time or like that, then you can also find me on LinkedIn. So the I'll just put that in the chat window. It's on the meetup page as well. You can find me from there. Feel free to ask your questions or other things as such. How about authentication? Authentication will in Azure, we will do the authentication. We want to do the authentication with Azure Active Directory so that we can use the auth 2.0 flow with authorization flow with Active Directory and the OpenID with Active Directory itself. And the if you are looking for that, I will share one link for you, like create one service which will be doing your auth 2.0 with Azure AD. Okay, so I think something like this should help you out. So uh, with Azure Active Directory, secure the classes with Azure Active Directory. Okay, check something like that. Okay, and I'm also just putting the social media profiles in the chat window. Please find us over there. And if you have any question or you want to find me in the next session or you want to find the previous sessions, then you can do that with the you can join the Reactor group as well, and we do regular post on LinkedIn and other platforms as well, so please find us there.
If there are no more questions, then can we close this session, Shivam? Think we
Yes.
don't have any more questions. Okay. So thank you so much, Shivam, for the session, and thank you all for joining us today. Please do share your feedback about today's session. And also, please feel free to use the Learn module link shared in the chat section. This will give you access to additional resources to take your learning further. Also, please visit Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru meetup page for more upcoming session. Thank you all once again and enjoy the rest of your day.